All right. Looks like everything is good. Hope you all can hear me. Hope you all are having a good day. Had a bit of a late start to this one, but it looks like we have a new match between Daniel and Brad. So we can go back through the moves of this one. It looks like it was a Sicilian. Had a mainline Sveshnikov for a few moves with knight d5, bishop e7, and then white opting to go for this b pawn. Get a few more moves in. Knight to d3 was our last move. Computer dubbing this a mistake. Bishop e7, f3, queen d8. And this is our position. Interesting position. Black is enjoying the bishop pair, while white is enjoying the extra b pawn. Not entirely clear how white's going to continue with development here. It's also not clear which side the king is going to find itself on, or if it's going to stay in the center for the rest of the game, which is unlikely. But yeah, here we are. Looking forward to a fun match. So one thing I'm noticing about white's position, this knight on d3 looks quite misplaced. Probably the knight would rather enjoy e3 and the e3 and d5 squares. That takes some time to get in. G3 looking to activate this bishop on this diagonal, one of these two diagonals, but bishop g5 is now played with tempo on the queen. And that's going to allow this f5 pawn break, and suddenly black's pieces are springing to life. So, okay, where to go with the queen? Queen c2 looks most natural to me. We shall see. Can't hear music. Okay. Okay. Deciding on e2. Uh, it looks like f5 is a pretty automatic move in this position, I believe. Gotta get some activity for your pieces. Try to open up this bishop. You have the rook here on the diagonal. King is still uncastled. I have the rook on f8. Not playing a role yet, so yeah, f5 played rather quickly. It's a really strong play by Brad. And yeah, this has got to be really uncomfortable for white. His pieces are just not harmoniously placed. King is still stuck in the center, as I've said many times. So, yeah, going to be a difficult road ahead for white. Not quite sure how to untangle here. Just black's play just looks really easy. Queen can come to a5. We have the rook bearing down on the b pawn. Yeah, in a position like this, white would love to play e takes f5, but unfortunately that runs into all sorts of... Oh, he's going for it. Okay. Okay, so we can't play this right away, but... Okay, queen a5 check can be played. Play rook takes f5. Can play e4. Goes for rook takes f5. Okay, so computer does not like this. It preferred a quick queen a5 check. Now bishop g2 can be played, and white can look to castle soon. Black could try to stop castling with queen b6 just to be a little annoying. Or queen a5 check and then queen b6. Some combination of those moves. Just to try to keep this king in the center. Huge time edge to black. 20 minutes to 15. Yep, decides on queen b6. Going to make it a little bit difficult for white to castle now. Interesting idea is c5 after takes you can click in castles. c5 dc castles, and if c4 discover check and attacking the knight, we can always play knight f2. So no issues there. White is up the pawn. Probably not a good idea to try to hang on to that pawn. We also do have a threat on the b2 pawn. This seems like a secondary idea to just stopping white from castling for the moment, though. Without castling, these rooks remain inactive. Daniel crunching the numbers on this one. Don't want to think too long, though. The clock is working against him. Sorry, just looking over the audio quickly. Quite a bit of time being spent on this move. Trying to come up with a way forward as white. But yeah, admittedly really difficult to play. The pieces just can't find any harmony. Okay, h4 is going to invite the bishop to come forward. And then we really can't look forward to castling after that. Bishop e3, only move here for black. I'm looking at the times spent by both players on every move, and I'm not seeing a time where black spent more than 1 minute on a move, so probably feeling very confident, very comfortable in this position. It looks like the only time black could have spent a little bit more time was on this rook takes f5 decision. Instead, we could have had this queen a5 check before queen a3 knifing into the position. Looking for queen c3 check, possibly queen takes c4. But, okay, rook takes f5. Perfectly natural move. And here we are. So, bishop e3. Will Brad come up with it? Hard to really suggest another move. Bishop f6, bishop e7. Bishop just seems out of play on all of these squares, really. Bishop h6 could even potentially trap the bishop with g4, g5. All right. Brad is taking his longest think. Guess we can explore this line a little bit. So bishop e3. Yeah, just white's pieces are just not finding good squares, not finding meaningful ways to contribute. Engine is looking at rook d1, then bishop c6, a3, bishop a4, looking to harass the white pieces. Yeah, then it just wants to go back over here. e4, looking to open it up. Takes. I mean, it's hard to find a piece of black that isn't functioning very well here. White is just in a giant knot. Oh, okay. Brad did come up with bishop e3. Game's not over. White is strategically lost, but still requires some good moves by black. We try to get activity with something like h5, h6. Okay, decides on c5. Bishop takes c5 was played quite quickly. That is the only move. Had lots of threats. So, okay. White gets rid of that bishop. 100% should take with the queen here. Try to keep white's pieces bottled up. Are we having a relay issue, or are we really considering pawn takes? No, okay. Yeah, queen takes played. Yeah, just how do we get the rooks in the game? That's been the big question in this middle game so far. How do we get the king save as well? I mean, if we're gonna move the rook somewhere, these are the places for it. F1, d1. Just curious if white tries to offer this queen exchange to permit castles. Black does best to avoid the exchange. Until now, because now we're netting this pawn. Bishop takes f3. And yeah, just a good endgame for black. Up the pawn, bishop's attacked, and pawns are weak on both sides of the board. We also have these two passed pawns in the center. So yeah, white best not to go into the ending here. Do we have a move? Not yet. Okay. G4 could be played as well. Rook f4. Now queen f2? Is there a big difference here? No, relatively the same. Just too much activity for black plus the extra pawn, so it looks like all endgames are easily lost for white, so probably white does best to keep the queens on board. But that just means that we just have a difficult time getting the rooks in the game. So, yeah. Black enjoys a very nice advantage, winning advantage. Okay, does come up with the best move, rook d1. Yeah, we can get our bishop to b5 here. That's a nice square. The rook on d1 does put small responsibility on the queen, watching over this pawn. I do wonder how much the clock is going to become a factor in this game. But the thing black seems to be doing well is forcing white to come up with difficult moves in a tough position, forcing white to chew up some of that clock. Bishop c6, and I guess this pawn is going to be poisoned. Yeah, rook takes b2. Just look at the activity, look at the king. So, white unable to go pawn grabbing after bishop c6. Could be in for a long match. As long as both players continue to take their time and play accurately, games could go on for a while. I believe it's a 25 plus 10 match, if I recall correctly. f6. Okay. Not sure what prompted this decision. Okay, so watching over the pawn and maybe worried about the rook being on a light square? Not sure. Bishop's tethered to the defensive f3, so there was no worry of bishop h3. Yeah, it's a bit of a passive decision, and some of black's advantage slips away. Now white can look to activate the rook on the third rank like this. Try to kick that queen away. So bishop c6 would have stopped that move, looking for bishop b5 quickly. Black still has comfortable advantage, but huge, well, not huge. Bit of a mistake there for sure. Definitely inaccurate. Yeah. Taking his foot off the gas a little bit. Plays rook d3 quickly. Yeah. And once again, black is needing to come up with this bishop c6 to b5 plan. Queen a5 also inaccurate. Rook c3, good move here. Some of black's advantages slipping away. Okay, I guess black wanted to pick up this pawn. But that's gonna let white castle. Black's big advantage in the position a few moves ago was just the fact that, you know, white couldn't really activate any pieces. Okay, well. Yeah, probably both players. Well, I guess white has missed this crazy idea. F takes e4, and then rook takes b2 with a skewer, picking up another pawn, going into a much better endgame. And should you not take the pawn, the rook has to go to a square where it's watching over f3. So maybe rook c3, but then the b pawn is also hanging. Yeah, this is a sharp continuation for sure. Rook b3 takes, bishop takes f3. Also a good ending for black. I'm getting word from somebody at the site that some of my stream information was incorrect. So looks like I got it fixed up now. Played e4 quickly. So okay, that makes some sense. I'm not gonna criticize that too much. Stockfish is pointing out that black had this bishop e4 move, but e4, okay, the idea can't take this because of rook f2 check, picking up the bishop. But white does have a way to exploit this tactically with the move rook b3, only move. Trying to take advantage of this pin. After e takes f3, we can play bishop h3. And white is actually pretty close to equal here. To rook c1, rook ff8 gets out of the pin, and rook b6. Looks pretty risky for white because black has the strong f2 pawn, but it's well guarded. And white's king is actually closer to the action than black's king. And he does come up with rook b3. Okay, apologies. Earlier I said time control is 25 plus 10. It is not. It is 25 plus 5. Looks like, oh, okay. Good move. There was a chance to play f2 here. And I think this move is going to lose because we can actually take, and then suddenly we're defending f1 quite a few times. Yeah. After rook b6, we can promote. Takes. And this is a technically winning ending for black. Two connected pawns against the bishop. So, takes good technique, but black is winning. Rook f3 is a good way to start. Cutting off the king, attacking g3. Okay. He decided to stop this move in a different way. Now there is no pin. Rook on b8 is now defended. Bishop c4 check thrown in. It's gonna be one of these two moves. Probably not d5. That seems anti-positional to blocking your own bishop in such a way. So king h8, most natural move. Uh-oh. So yeah, black does best to just go ahead and take the bishop here. If you take the rook, then we fork. Which, surprisingly, is still playable because we have this rook bf7 move. But, yeah, white is definitely happy to see this ending. Much easier to hold than previous endings that were possible. Okay, black is going for this one. Bishop takes d5, and then rook f7. This is the only move that doesn't give white an advantage now. Okay. All right, big question. Which rook? And after b3, the f3 pawn suddenly is a liability. It's going to be difficult to defend this, and the king is a long way off. This king is already there, already in the action. So this chain of events really worked out for white. Just a few moves ago, it seemed like white wasn't going to be able to untangle the position, but yeah, in this position, white was finding themselves completely lost, and then, you know, a series of things happened. Black made some inaccurate moves and finds himself in a worse ending. But that's the way chess is sometimes. You make 40 good moves and they're all spoiled by a couple of bad ones. There is an interesting practical try here for black, the move g5. Looking to support the f3 pawn with g4. Takes, and then king g7. Trying to get the king in the game as quickly as you can. Rook f1. Flick in a check, king e3, king g6. Trying to find activity in this way. Take, take. But still a comfortable position for white. Pawns are as far apart as possible. We still have connected pawns on the queen's side. Okay. Rook e7 cuts the king off. Potentially looking for rook e2 check, so easily parried with rook h2. After rook e1, the engine is pointing out something interesting. King f8 looks surprising because okay, yeah, black's gonna get over here first, leading to a drawn king pawn ending. Yeah, so he does come up with rook h2. And now suddenly g5 is the only way for black to put up real resistance. Yeah, and now black's falling behind on the clock. Entering blitz territory. Whoa, comes up with g5. Very nice. Taking seems pretty automatic. Yeah, you can't really allow g4, so yeah. Quickly look to get the king in. Now rook f2. Just go collect the pawn before it becomes Ooh, king g6 played rather quickly. Needed to flick in this check first, it says. King e3, king g6. Something like this. Yeah, trying to get activity on the d file. We'll attack these pawns, put pressure on this pawn maybe. Yeah, rook on f4 keeps the king cut out. Yeah, no reason to allow the activity to, or the rook to infiltrate on the c file. So king d2 could go back. Probably don't want to play rook f2. Okay, decides on rook c4 also makes sense. All king pawn endings are losing here for black, it looks like. So black just has to sit and wait. See how white is going to convert this extra pawn. Okay. That does defend the a pawn, but rook can come in. Doesn't matter. It looks like white has many ways to win here. King is just cut off. Can never approach the g pawn. Yeah, you can flick in a check, or you can go back and defend the a pawn. Black just has to sit and wait. Ooh. Yeah, I can't stop king h4 now. Looks like the h pawn is going to be lost. White rattles these moves off pretty quickly. It's all falling apart now. Could see resignation at any moment. Okay, just have to be a little careful as not to allow rook h2. Well, pressure here. King attacks the rook. So it looks like black is succeeding in taking the b pawn at least. But rook f8 to f5 is nice because the rook is stopping the king from coming over to defend against the g pawn's promotion. And again, all king pawn endings are losing. King is just too far away. Good move. Yeah. Still can't trade rook for rook here. The pawn, the king 2 squares in front of the pawn. The opposition does not matter here. Oop. King f7. Pawn pushes through. Black approaching the 2-minute mark. Yeah. Many ways to do it. King gets out of the way of the pawn. Just start pushing our pawn while the king is cut off. Just to be mindful of these lateral checks on the 5th and 6th rank, but okay. Checking the king up the board. Almost there. G6, easy enough. Yep. Just get out of that attack. Just some combination of king h7 and moving the rook along the f file, pushing through. Always repeat. Yeah. Just king h7, get out of the way of the pawn. There we go. Under a minute now for black. All right, we have a result. Daniel taking game 1, coming back. So very close situation, but managed to come back from a objectively lost position and to take game 1. All right, let me see if I can get into game 2. Keep checking to see if the second game is starting. So we're still resetting the pieces, maybe talking about the game. Haven't seen game 2 come up yet. Just reaching out to the director of this match to see when game 2 starts. I don't have any communication with them directly right now, so I'm sitting in the dark as we wait for game 2. So we just recap here while we wait for game 2. So I play the Sveshnikov myself with black, and I've always been of the opinion that bishop takes g5 is just more testing. Lots of sharp variations here. d5 and quick f5. Bishop g7 also playable, but f5, and then usually bishop d3 is played. Bishop takes b5 is an interesting sacrifice. But yeah, rook b8, rook a4, just get out of this fork. But we do have to accept that we're moving the king pretty early, but flex up a piece for a couple of pawns. But definitely sharp. Both sides have to be booked up to play in that way. And the only move I know here is a5, so castles is new to me, playing for the sacrifice. I was kind of surprised to see this, because this is white's best piece, trading it off. Queen b6, d5, queen takes b2, getting the pawn back in this way. Black enjoys the two bishops. Yeah, and this was the start of white's problems in the opening. Yeah, knight d3, just while it does defend the pawn, it's just a misplaced piece. Queen d4 could have been played here, hitting both pawns. F3, bishop h4 check, something like this. And then looking to reroute the bishop on this diagonal. Queen already knifing in. But bishop e7 was played. F3. Yeah, bishop g5, just a nice move. It's the earlier point to this queen d8 move to support bishop g5. Allowing f5 with tempo. And black got this in. And if queen a5 check had been found with this idea to go queen a3, looking for queen c3 check and trying to attack the king this way, result could have been different. d1, e4. Queen c3 check. I mean, position is really not good for white in any way. But yeah, a couple of inaccurate moves in the middle game here. Rook f6 was the first one. Bishop c6 to b5 was a winning idea. And then this queen a5 check idea. And then after queen takes, king takes, not coming up with bishop e4. So black had a lot of opportunities to capitalize on white's play. Bishop e4 is admittedly a difficult move to see. But yeah. Turns out white was able to equalize from a worse position, got a much better endgame, and was able to convert. Right, I'm being told that game 2 is starting in just a couple of minutes, so I guess in the meantime I'm going to grab a beverage, and I will be right back. Ah, there it is. All right. Game 2 underway. We're not missing too much here. Brad with the white pieces going to look for revenge. We see a Rui, a Berlin defense. Engine going bonkers. Yeah, D3, best way to combat the Berlin in my opinion. Goes for an early bishop takes knight. Very surprising. Okay. Yeah. So not the biggest fan of this early bishop deployment because looks like eventually it's going to find itself on G3 where it could easily get shut out of the game. There's a famous game where Capablanca won where his opponent's bishop found itself on G3 and it basically stayed there trapped behind pawns the entire game. Wonder if I can find that game just to illustrate while we wait. Knight BD2 was played rather quickly. There was an opportunity here to get the bishop pair back because E5 pawn is still unprotected. So something like this is going to cost black a pawn. And this is much more preferable position for white, I think. Getting rid of those two bishops, and this is the worst of those two bishops because the pawn is fixed on E5. But okay, Knight BD2 is played, also good. No issues there. Yeah, still looking for this H3 move. And we can look to put a lot of pressure on E5. Wow, rook b1. Very deep idea. Still, this h3 move was good. Just trying to pile on this piece. This pawn. Okay, so here's the game I was talking about. This is Winter Capablanca from Hastings 1919. Let's put a few moves on. We get a 4 knights. Bishop b5. Knight d4 is the most common move today, but okay, bishop b4. Castles. Very symmetrical game. White takes the pawn. Take back with the pawn. So we're getting a similar structure to the one that we see in the game. Bishop d6. Bishop g5. h6. Bishop h4. c5. Knight d5. g5. Takes. Bishop g3. Bishop g4. h3. Take. See some exchanges. We get the queens off, and yeah, this is a long-term positional advantage for black because the bishop is just stuck, has no way out. These doubled pawns prevents the f pawn from moving, and white went on to lose this game, just basically playing down a piece. So we could have seen something similar to that, but get something completely different. Okay, so what did we miss here? So after knight bd2, rook e8, rook b1, a5, looking to stop b4, a4, b5, b3. That move looks quite passive to me. And still could have gone in for this g5 and trying to play against the bishop. Bishop b4 is on board, and hopefully now we see h3, just dealing with this pin. We could get a similar structure if bishop takes c3 is allowed. For example, okay, he's choosing queen c1. That gets out of the pin, and after bishop takes, we can play knight takes. But I guess just as an example, if queen takes, then we see just once knight takes e4, taking advantage of this unprotected bishop right away. I was going to illustrate g5, just looking to play against this bad bishop the entire game, but I guess it's a little different here because black had a dark squared bishop defending the e-pawn. There's no such bishop in this case. Yeah, and black can just look to keep the tension here. Bishop c3, g5. Okay, queen d6 looking for bishop a3. So white can play c3 and produce a square for the queen. H3 is also playable, I guess. It's a position where not a whole lot is going on. Black has two bishops. White has weakened a lot of the dark squares over on the queen side, but double pawns here for black, so it's an interesting position. There's just not a lot of tension in the position, so not a whole lot going on. Okay, white does play c3. And if you want to be consistent, you just... Oh, okay, we see bishop takes... Okay, knight takes. I guess black is looking to play against the d-pawn. I don't see how you can accumulate enough pieces to attack it, though. Okay, it is a plan for sure, but... Just get the rooks over here and hold everything together. And don't forget about the possibilities of bishop g3 and maybe d4. So queen c2, queen d1 also interesting. Same idea, just watch over the pawn. Queen e3 also good. Knight h5 to f4 is good. Knight h5, g5, knight f4, something like that. Typical idea in positions like this. Could also offer a repetition like this. This would be a pretty silly repetition, though, I think. Probably not the only way to play. So I guess we could explore this knight h5 idea a little bit. Just need to get in here. I was thinking g5 here, but knight g6 is preferred. Something like this with a completely equal position. Ah, chooses g5. Are we sure? This seems like a hasty decision. A lot more time should have been spent on knight takes g5 here. Because if takes, then queen takes, and then we just get the piece back and we're up a couple of pawns. So after knight g5, knight g4, queen g3, hd, queen takes g4, f6, and White's in the driver's seat here. This king is a little airy. I mean, you basically have to come up with knight takes g5, and the only critical move here is knight g4. I guess bishop c5 is something, but yeah, just back up, stay on the diagonal, keep the threat. What if I snatch this, though? And the rooks get to use the d file. Give d1. Yeah, I mean, look at this. The king is coming into question. Queen here. Rook on the open d file. Okay, decides on bishop g3. Yeah, I guess if I can criticize anything of white, it's like not spending enough time looking at critical moves. Like this, I would spend a lot more time looking at this. Because if it works, it could be winning. Yeah, okay, so, I mean, with the alignment between the bishop and the queen, d4 is, I guess, could be looking to be played, getting into some sharp stuff. The engine's looking at this move. Knight h5. For example, if knight d7, then d4. What happens if we go down this variation? Ah, the bishop's just hanging here on a3, of course. Yeah. Okay. So knight h5. Can look to remove the bishop, or look to jump in here. Engine's pointing out some weird waiting moves. King h1, queen e2. Definitely prefers white here. The unsafe king. Rook on the half-open f-file. This bishop's kind of just out of play here on a3. It doesn't really contribute to the position. Rook on a8 yet to contribute. Daniel really falling behind on the clock again. Turned out not to matter last game, but it is a recurring theme. I guess Brad's doing a really good job of putting pressure on the clock. Yep, does come up with knight h5. Good move. What happens if we still try for this d4? It's playable. Queen e6 looking to pile up on this, and then e5, d8. Yeah, I guess as moves go on, rook on b1 is misplaced. Nice activity down the center. Bishop is finding nice squares. Bishop f8 to g7 maybe. Knight finding it difficult to contribute. Just trying to hold the center together. g4 can be played in some positions. Okay, decides on rook d1, rook fd1. That move is fine, but after knight takes bishop, you would have liked to take with the f pawn and have your rook on the f file. But okay, just play in a different way. Bishop c5 now, getting the bishop back in the game, or rook a d8. Just improving these pieces. Oh, do we have a move? Yeah, chooses queen e6. Also good. Ooh, interesting. Get this variation, and suddenly this bishop is feeling a little stuck. Says you could get out like this, which is interesting. Although queen c5 is there. This is really interesting. Just wonder if I should change the board theme. Classic wood board here. There we go. It's a little brighter. In for a long positional fight. Bishop against knight. Black has weaker structure. And the time is close to leveling out here. White had about a 3-minute advantage on the clock. It's ticking down. So anything else to consider other than a takes b5? H2 to f1 is an idea. Then some combination of queen d2, knight e3, maybe getting the knight to f5. Oh, likes g4 here, wow. Yeah, just really trying to play against this bishop here on a3. It took forever, but the knight made it there. This is what black has to give up the exchange now. Rook e6. Something like this, yeah. Difficult to assess, really. Wow, he does come up with knight h2. How could bishop f8 be wrong here? Jin is not a fan. Queen f3, though. Looking for knight g4, I guess, or... Yeah, so looking for knight g4 now. Says this is the only move. Knight g4. Rook b6, yeah, some strange stuff here. Just wanting to move the c-pawn and then over here. Something like this. Slightly prefers white. Bishop d6 it is. Yeah, but once again, this queen f3 and knight g4 idea is strong. Yeah, he finds it. That's very good. White showing nice positional understanding. I mean, if this knight gets to f5, that's just comfortable advantage. Maybe even knight g4 to f6 some positions. Okay. Daniel approaching 10 minutes remaining. King g7. Makes sense. So I guess as black you should play bishop c5. That way there, when the knight on g4 goes to e3, maybe you can take it. Not sure I see a whole lot else. Ooh. Yeah, it's not a good decision to open the c-file, I think, towards these already weakened pawns. And if you take with the a pawn, that's probably worse, because then you give white a connected passed pawn. b4 played relatively quickly, too. And just to highlight this, yeah, I mean, rook dc1, plant the rook on c4 where it can never be challenged, supporting the b pawn. Knight e3 to c4, also an interesting idea. Knight e3, f5 in the air. So you'd be forced to take with the bishop. Knight e3. And this is just sore pawn structure. It does play c takes b4. Does take with the bishop. Knight e3 played quickly. White enjoys a very nice positional advantage here. Black's pawns aren't very good, and lots of weak light squares, and the bishop can never defend them, so the knight will find nice squares on c4 or f5. Look to play against the backward c pawn. So black has a difficult road ahead now. Anticipating this knight f5 move, it's just trying to get the king out. Bishop a3 is okay. I couldn't wrap my head around it initially, but it does guard the c1 square from the rooks, if temporarily. Rook a b8. Yeah, no, knight f5 check, and then just get your rook to the c file. There it is. And where to go with the king? King h2. Guess for rook h1, and then trying to put pressure on h6. Yeah, so bishop f8 to cover that. He must have had king h2 in mind when he went down this variation, but more than one way to play. White just enjoys a comfortable position. There's not really any tactics. There's not a lot of pressure. There's not a lot of stuff attacking each other. White's just putting pressure on all of Black's weaknesses, and Black has to watch over them constantly. Yeah, he does come up with bishop f8. This unleashes an attack on b3. It's not so clear. Well, the pawn's indefensible, so he has to find activity now. Yeah, he does. Rook dc1, very good. Pressure here. Rook on c6 is a monster. Just got everything. So I guess we can explore what happens if we take the pawn. Take, and then rook takes here. The queen's just shot out of the action now. The king is feeling trouble. Play the move like, yeah, the steep pawn's under attack also. So if I play bishop d6 trying to consolidate, I guess I just take it. Take that. Yeah, white's up a pawn and f7 is collapsing. Okay, so c5, letting the bishop handle it. Now rook c4 blocks the queen. Puts the queen on a good, or puts the rook on a good square. Queen d1 to defend the b3 pawn also. This knight e3 move could be interesting. Rook b1, wow, yeah, just to deflect the queen away from f7. Takes, queen takes f7. Oh, I thought the idea was knight f5. Oh, I just take the rook. Yeah, if knight f5, then rook g8, and it's equal. Perpetual check would be the only way. So rook c4, rook b4, knight e3. c6 to stop knight d5. Says you could take this and then try to play against this pawn. Interesting idea. Okay. Oh, we see this. We're seeing this in the game. Okay. Knight c4 it is. Difficult move to come up with here. Bishop c5. Allowing the pawn to be captured, and then g4. Queen e2, bishop d4. Yeah, not easy to play in this way. Yeah, so he plays rook a8. Defending the pawn passively. Okay, it does defend the pawn. Now queen e3 to stop bishop c5. Just not a fan of g4 because the bishop's finding activity and getting to a nice square on d4. Trying to combat this knight. Trying to stop the knight from rerouting this way. e3 back to f5. But even then, white still has a much better position, but not as good as it could have been. And now it's just not as easy to see a clear way forward for white. Like g3, king g2, rook h1. Hard to say. I mean, even if we get this in g3, bishop d4, king g2, it's just not clear what you're doing on the h file. Black's just starting to lock it up. Black can just sit and wait. King g3. Okay. It's ambitious, but just how ambitious is not clear. The king looks perfectly safe on g3, and black doesn't have access to it. Right. Actually, some interesting ideas if, well, it's hard to get in, because queen has indirect pressure on the b pawn. It sucks that the rook has to watch over this point. But maybe in some world, if you could play knight e3 and then open the f file, rook f1, something like that. Now going for rook h1. Wonder if you could try some arrangement with rook h5, king h2, queen h3. Not sure what it gets, but it looks aggressive. Alright, we're entering blitz territory. Black has fallen under 5 minutes. White's still ahead on the clock. Has been ahead on the clock all game. It's calling this a mistake, but it's not truly a mistake. There's not really anything wrong with it. It's a very long-term plan. You can play queen f5 and route your king over this way to defend the b3 pawn. Takes a long time. But okay, you need to defend this with something other than a piece. Knight has to block the queen, but you'd rather your knight be over here attacking the king if allowed. c4 is an outpost, but it's probably not the best square on the chessboard for the knight. It would rather be over here. Ooh, okay. Critical decision coming up now. E takes f5, actually a little bit better than g takes. Okay, decides on g takes quickly, but e takes would have given the knight the e4 square. Or the king the e4 square, even. Okay, plays g takes f5 quickly. White still has an advantage, but I guess e takes f5 was just another way to play. It looks like black could just close everything up, though. Like, I don't truly think that black's in any danger of losing the position. Just put everything on dark squares and sit. Just because with all the pawns on white, it's difficult to find a pawn break. Okay, it doesn't like this transition for black because of f6 check, deflecting the king away, looking for activity. That's hard to play though. Your pawn is basically stranded on f6, but it is working out tactically. If you take the pawn, then my rook is breaking in. So king g6, g4. And how do you corral the pawn and watch over this pawn? Don't see a way to do it. Yeah, okay, so f6 was missed. Now black plays f6 himself, and it's a locked up position. And it's okay. White is lashing out with f4, trying to open lines and activate the pieces, but yeah, pawn can simply be captured. And g takes f4, actually the only move for black to equalize. G takes f4, king f3, bishop e5, holding everything together. d4 deflecting the bishop, and then this position, complete equality. But it's a kind of equality where you prefer white because the pawns. Okay, but black is up a pawn, so maybe I'm wrong. Ooh, bishop d4. Not the best way. Now e5, creating connected passed pawns. Very good for white. Nearly winning for white. Okay, big moment. Big moment coming up. Guess we can highlight a few moves here. I mean, the pawns are strong. They're rolling. Oh, we're missing some moves. Oh, he comes up with it. e5, takes. Here we are. White close to winning. If two engines are playing, probably white takes this game. White will score the full point. But as the time is ticking down, white has to prove it. Okay, so this is also going to make white's life a little bit easier. I mean, king just comes up to e4 and supports the pawns. The only thing white has to be a little concerned about is these pawns rolling, but this square is taken away. Yeah, here comes the king f3. This is black's only source of counterplay, is trying to get these pawns rolling. Nothing going on the queen side, but probably feel a little bit anxious about leaving the defense of the a5 pawn, creating yet another passed pawn for white. Position is collapsing. Yeah, I think white can go on to score the full point here. Under 2 minutes now is black. Ooh, it's exciting. Brad looking for the tie. Trying to tie up the match. I don't know if they're playing all 4 games this evening. It seems like it could take a long time. Alright, we're getting some moves. Yeah, I mean, this king is gonna break in eventually. And don't forget the a pawn could fall at any moment. He's really trying to put all of his hopes on the g-pawn, but it's just a little too slow. f6, king g6, trying to stop the king from infiltrating, but then rook f1, just trying to get going with these pawns. Yeah, white not afraid of the g-pawn. Ooh, that's a dirty move. g2, suddenly you get mated. Almost under a minute. Check. Ooh. That vacates the g8 square for the king. Now this is no longer mate. King d5, only move. Only move. Gotta find king d5. I want to throw it on the analysis board, but I don't want to miss it. Okay, he's got time to figure it out. King f3, g2. There's just nothing going here. You can't stop the pawn now. So king d5, g2 now. Rook takes h6. King g8, knight e7. King f8, king e6. Allowing the queen. Rook h8, rook g8 takes. Takes. King e7. Pawn is pushing through. Oh, he plays king f3. Oh, no. And now it's not there. The king needed to support the pawns. A big miss. g2 on board. Rook takes h6. Only move to hold. Yeah, it's so... Black put up very creative resistance, and white was not able to break through. Should have taken a little bit more time, I think. Had 3 minutes. With a 5-second increment. Now the position is lost. There's no stopping the pawn. You can't stop the g-pawn. The g-pawn's pushing through. Oh no! What a turnaround. Oh my goodness. There's no way to stop the g-pawn. You can give checks, but there's... Oh no. Oh no. Oh, that's... I just don't see anything white can do at this moment. Yeah, white is falling behind on the clock now. There's no stopping the pawn. $50 seconds. f7. King takes knight. Stops the pawn from queening. You could even queen and be winning. Because the king on f3 is... Yeah, just nothing giving here. That's so unfortunate. White's going to lose. What seemed like really good technique in the middle game. Reached the winning position. Couldn't convert. Oh, you hate to see it. That's... Okay. White's gonna fall behind 0-2 in the match, and important to... Yeah, white resigns. Okay. important to stay composed. Important to not tilt. Just look at it objectively. Okay, I moved a little bit too fast. I was winning. I couldn't convert it. Daniel going up 2-0 in the match. A nail biter of a game. All right. And with that, we'll see if we get a game 3. I'm not sure if they're playing the whole match in one day or not. But, yeah. Probably going to discuss the game. And as we await for game 3, I'm going to take a quick break. I will be back in a bit. All right. Let's see if we get game 3. No, game 3 has not started yet. Oh, okay. I am receiving word that game 3 is about to start. Still not seeing the game. Yeah, this was the critical moment in the game. King d5, it's looks like a narrow path to victory, but it's there. E6. Now, just pushing through here. Yeah, winning pawn ending. Alright, I see game 3 has begun. Here it is, game 3. We see another Sicilian following game 1. Plays c3 this time around, not wanting to go into Brad's Sveshnikov again. So we're transposing into a c3 Sicilian. Bishop c4 and d4 are the main moves here. Yeah, and now d6. I have had this position many times with the black pieces as a Sicilian player. Brad is still confidently rattling off moves. He doesn't seem, at least from what I can tell, just by the moves that are being played, he doesn't seem to be too affected by the last game or the first game. Just confidently playing the match, confidently playing what he knows. Good moves. Solid opening so far. Yeah. And here, honestly, Black's just enjoying a lead in development and a better pawn structure. Isolated D pawn here for White. Oh, bishop e2, e6, castles, bishop e7. These are all standard moves being played. h3, bishop f5, or castles, bishop e7. Not a lot of tension in the position. Black just enjoys one positional advantage, White having an isolated pawn, and but okay, still a lot of chess to be played. Just gonna look to see if we're following any games. Yeah. There are a few games in the database. MVL has a game. Vlastimil Hort has a game. Looks like all of the games are going the same way. White plays queen b3 here. Okay, deciding on knight takes d5. Which has been played. There's 2 games in the database. 1 draw and 1 win for black. Yeah, queen takes. The correct way to recapture. Don't want to take with the pawn and get rid of this weakness. Looks like most games are continuing. Bishop e3, castles a3 here. Looks like we're getting those exact moves. a3 it is. I mean, after a3, black's just going to spend a lot of time getting everything geared up on d4. There's already so much pressure on it. Bishop f6 can be played. We can look to double rooks on the d file, maybe. So, yeah. Not the funnest position in the world for white, having to allocate so many resources to defending this pawn, but completely equal. I mean, it's not a whole lot. Okay. Whoa! No, that's not good. Uh-oh. Yeah, that was played way too fast. This just allows rook c5 with a skewer. We are going to have an imbalance. Oh, he chooses to go down the piece. Oh no. The only move was bishop takes f3. Okay, this is... Yeah, it seems clear what's happening here. I think our hero playing black is a little out of it. Probably not recovering well from the last game. Just completely understandable. That's one of the most brutal things about chess is, you know, playing really well and not being able to convert, losing the game, and then you still have a couple of games to play while you have that on your mind. Yeah, it's not easy, but okay. White's just gone up a piece, so probably going to be simple conversion. Okay, black probably just playing out of momentum, but yeah, unfortunately just down the piece. It's not really a whole lot to do now. White probably going to spend a lot of moves just trading everything off and making the conversion simple. Yep, there's the first exchange, another exchange coming. This is a relay issue. I don't think these moves were played. I think they just traded. Yeah, there's not a rook on c5. They just had a couple of exchanges. This is a relay error. Let me send a message to the organizer. I guess I can fix... Okay, so we probably had this. This is probably the current position. So I'll keep it like this. Oh, looks like it's getting fixed. There we go. All right, here we are. Queen c7. Okay. Black is trying for something against the king, but yeah, unfortunately there's just nothing going on. Down too much material now. Okay, well. Many ways for white to convert this one. Knight e5 is good, rook c1 is good. Knight e5 to g4 is pretty good. Yeah, it looks like we're going to see something like that. Rook c1 to c7, coordinating with the knight on e5. Bishop takes, then pawn takes, and the queen has access to f6 or h6. Knight g4 also good. It's a little surprising that black is continuing to play this one out, but I get it. Play moves out of momentum, see what happens. You're not forced to resign. Anything can happen in a chess game. So d5 sets up bishop d4 with a fork, but rook takes, defends. It does give up the h6 square, but okay, you have to stop bishop d4, clearly. Okay. Yeah. This one looks like lights out. Gotta take it. Queen takes. Yeah. Just deciding to resign there. That's gonna put Daniel 3 up in the match. And we'll see game 4 shortly. Yeah, this one came down to just one blunder, unfortunately. This allowing this rook c5. So anything to address this. Queen d6 or bishop e7. Game 4 starting. Okay. I don't see it yet. But even after rook c8, like, not all was lost if he was able to come up with his bishop takes f3 and then play this position. White is for choice. Queen against the rook and piece. It doesn't seem to be losing. Black still has a solid structure. Okay, here's game 4. Let's see. Game 4 underway. One more chance to take revenge. e4. We see a Sicilian, our third Sicilian. What kind of Sicilian will it be? Could see e6 or d6 or knight c6 or a6. It is e6. And g3 for a close setup. King's Indian attack kind of position. This could be a reverse Grunfeld with e-pawns absent. So a little bit different in nature than the reverse Grunfeld. White still choosing to play quickly. Okay. Maybe he's familiar with the position. Oh, here we are again. Daniel yet again taking on an isolated queen pawn. Does not seem to mind these positions at all. Take a look and see if we're still following some games. Okay, so we had a Sicilian. We are still following one game here. This position has been seen in one game, at least in my database, and that game ended in a draw. And this position, black played queen b6. Yeah, very calm. Symmetrical pawn structure. No piece imbalance. E4 is a bit of a commitment. Because now this pawn is that much more sensitive. We can look for queen b3. And yeah, queen b3 is played. And if you want to go into queen b6, then you have to take on double isolated b pawns. And the alternatives are not going to be stable. Queen c7, bishop f4, queen d7, knight e5. Queen c8 could be played, but still bishop f4 looking for rook c1. And lastly b6, then knight e5. Yeah, solid position for white here. b6 was played, and knight e5 is the correct response. Right. So now bishop g5 is good. I just want to highlight this for a second. Suddenly you can't take with the queen because knight d7 is there with a fork. And yeah, no good check to get out of it. Good to pick up this pawn, play this position, but this is not fun. It looks like this pawn is going to be a target. G1. Something like this. Bishop g5 was played. Says the best that I can do now is take this, but I mean, this is not a fun position to play, right? Engine says it's only slightly better for white, but probably not fun. And what if we just return here? Well, then white has gained a tempo, got bishop g5 in for free, and then I can just contest the c file. Says rook e8 is also playable, because then at least knight d7 doesn't hit with a fork. Okay. Yeah, rook e8 was played. I guess trading pawns in the center isn't going to net white anything. Yeah, this is just completely nothing. Nothing going on here, so rook e8, good move. Engine's looking at this crazy f4 move. Yeah, that's a hard move to play as a human, at least for me. Like, so watch out for this always, and bishop's getting kicked out. Still playable for white, but it just doesn't seem, I don't know, not a very human approach to my eye. I'm gonna step away for just one moment. Be right back. All right, rook fe1 on board. Okay. So, surprisingly, the only good move is this. Seems very difficult to play, but... I guess black need not worry about these pawns. Yeah, don't forget about the b2 pawn here. Or this. Yeah, completely equal ending. Okay, h6 on board. Yeah, now knight f3. And suddenly this pawn is really coming into question. Queen f5, knight h4. Queen g5, rook c1. It's an active position for white. Challenging both of the files, keeping pressure on the weak pawn. Dark squared bishop in no position to defend it. Knight on h4 looks a little weird, but it does cover f5. Knight f3 not too hard of a move to come up with because we just have a lot of attack on e5. So I guess he takes d5 as an alternative, it says. But okay, so here, what's happening here? Oh no, what am I doing? Queen e7. Oh, white's up a pawn here. Rook c5 coming though. We'll see a good way to stop rook c5. b4 is guarded. Queen e4, queen e6. What if I go straight in for rook c5 and then f4? Interesting. Okay. Trying to hang on to the pawn in this way. King is a little airy here with all major pieces on board. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Okay, f4 instead. Okay, so he just wants to pick this up for free. Queen f5. Yeah. Okay, so I guess if I take on d5, then rook c2 check is coming. Picking up this pawn so it doesn't... I mean, if black just regains the pawn, then that doesn't do anything. So rook c1 to defend, but then queen's getting to e4. This king is not feeling so hot. h3, f6 kicking out the knight, knight f3 supported by the queen, and h5. Yeah. Queen f5 found. Yeah, there's coordination on c2, so we have to defend that. c1 it is. Alright. What's black gonna come up with? Takes, queen e4. There it is. Queen e4 defends the d pawn. The king has to find this square. Don't forget about the D pawn as well. So I'm just curious, what am I guess if queen d4, then rook d1. Yeah. Okay. And then white just picking up the d pawn. Okay, so nothing giving it. Whoop, didn't mean to go back that far. Knight f3 also possible, but queen e2 check. And suddenly rook e3 could be played, potentially. For example, king h3, rook e3. Have to give the check. King h7. Takes d5. Yeah, okay, so queen f5 is the threat, so no time to pick up the knight. But if we pick it up with check... Yeah, that's a nice sequence. Picking up the piece. Oh, queen f3 was played. Now queen d4 is winning for black. Yeah. And it's a little different. Because the b pawn is no longer protected. With the queen on b3, we had rook d1. The queen on f3. After rook d1, we have queen takes b2. So, yeah. White has found himself in a lost position. Hate to see it. Game 2. I think game 2 was the decisive game. After that, Brad couldn't seem to get on equal footing. Had a winning position in game 1 too. Yeah, so game 1, Brad was winning. Game 2, Brad was winning. Unfortunately, just unable to convert. Probably some energy depletion too. It's been a long match. It's been 3 hours. 3 hours of straight chess. So, yeah, fatigue probably setting in. Maybe a little bit of tilt. All completely understandable. Okay. Plays rook d1 anyway, but queen takes b2 check is there. A pawn also falling. It's just all falling apart now, it seems. Can even snatch the knight. Be winning that way. Yeah, many roads lead to Rome here. Yeah, simplifying. Just gonna be down too many pawns. The only thing that black can hope for now, or sorry, white can hope for now is a perpetual check, but just don't think it's going to be there. Yeah, just easy swap. Get something like this. Well, once again, really nice performance by Daniel, taking the match what appears to be 4-0, and came back from lost positions on several occasions. Not easy to do, so I think he's just riding the momentum now. Yeah, it was a really exciting match. So we wind down to a timely conclusion here. Well, only one winning move, at least. G6. Played quickly. Yeah, not too difficult to come up with that one. Just can't allow perpetual check. It's the only thing black has to be concerned about, but queen is on a perfect square, defending the king, defending the diagonal, pressure on a2, defending the b-pawn. Yeah, queen f2 holds everything together. Queen f6 also good. Yeah. It's not a whole lot to say about this one. I mean, black's got 2 extra pawns. Black's gonna keep the king sheltered over here from perpetual checks, and then probably just look to push these pawns. I don't think white has a lot to say about that. On the surface, anything can happen, I suppose. But... okay. Have a punch here. Queen e6 just defends everything. Yeah, just look to get going with these pawns now. Especially if we can just get a pawn to b3. Then everything will be defended. Sorry, I'm not saying a whole lot. Just not a whole lot going on here. Black's been in complete control of this game so far. I'm gonna say it looks a little hard to argue with that move. Engine's pointing out that g4 can be played, and then h5 looking for some perpetual like this. Something like this. Oh, whoops. Yeah, see? Easy to blunder. But that's certainly, almost certainly not going to happen. move your king up in the endgame. King f3, king f4, king g5, queen f6, king h6. I'm just being silly now. Wait, what? Oh, that's nice. Clever. Queen d4 check can be met with queen f6 check. Just like in the movies. And then you have to trade. Yeah, so plays queen b4. Never trade. b5. What? Oh, and then just take this. Okay. Yeah, queen b3 solid. So g4 moves coming up again. Okay, but it doesn't do anything. You can't follow it up. Queen d7. Pressure here, pressure here. Attack everything. It's putting up annoying resistance, so, but I don't think Daniel cares. I think he's just patient. Doesn't have to win in 2 moves. He can win in 100 moves. It's not going to get into time pressure. He still has 10 minutes. Yeah, b5. Super solid. Queen pressure, attacking this, defending that and that. This defensive role is more important though. Can't allow perpetual. Oh. Now black can force the issue with b4. Just create that outside passer. Yeah, b4 it is. right. Yeah. Just a3. Push the pawn to victory. Oh, we did see a3. It's been a solid game by Daniel. I don't think he made one mistake. No, I'm not seeing any mistakes. Okay, that's it. We have a result. Resignation. Daniel goes up 4-0 in the match. I will reflect that here. And yeah, that was fun. Thank you to Daniel for letting me commentate. Thank you to ChessZone for hosting. And yeah, this was a fun match. Lots of ups and downs, but that is chess. And until next time, thanks for watching.